Manhood, brought to you in part by Solomon's Bespoke.
This is Manhood. Thank you so much for joining us. We always aim to be better as brothers, and today is no different. But today we're taking it a bit different, and we're going to be specific to a specific target of men, and this is millennials. So if you fall into that category, yeah, the white beard, just outside, just outside of millennial, yeah. But if I shave it off, I might, maybe a Gen Z. I don't know. Maybe let's get to the talking. I do like Nile. Why you smiling at that?
You went worse than millennials, so you went Gen Z. If you shave off the beard, I felt like it's a bit of a stretch. We're not doing yoga today.
You are as young as you feel, right?
Cool.
So we talk about millennial men, and specifically, to start things off, we're going to talk about the pressures that men undergo. So to get straight into it, some millennials on the panel. Chris Carim, entrepreneur to my right. To his right, Joshua Alexander, entrepreneur, activist. And to his right, man who needs no introduction, Vibes God himself. And Nile, millennial, you sure?
Me?
For sure. Okay. Yeah. So I'm kind of like on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Still feel I'll kick everybody out, but he's gone. So let's get straight into it. Millennial men. What first off, apart from an age, there's a grouping, right?
Millennials starts at 81.
1981.
Right?
I only cusp, brother. I only cusp.
Yeah, now, Robbie.
Huh?
You know?
I only cusp in 1981. Yeah, I am 1975, brother. Yeah, 1975. But again, you're as young as you feel, and and what you put into life is what life presents to you, and the energy around that. But so we're not saying that only millennials in this conversation experience certain pressures and things that we're going to talk about here today. But we want to target it a bit more because we're going to go into a lot more as the episodes go, and we're discussing mental health, the generation gaps, what things that Gen Zs are going through, Gen Alphas as they're coming up, and how do we bridge that gap to understand. It's one thing to say, do people understand what men are going through, but are men understanding what other men are going through with these gaps, which is why we're focusing specifically today on millennials.
Gotcha.
So, Chris, I'm going to throw you straight into it. Pressures of men, or if you want to talk about millennials, like, hey, boy, if what we going through.
Young fellas like you.
Well, you see, pressures of men would really be from where you come from society. So different parts of society you have different pressures. Family background, you have different pressures. If you come from a good home, if you come from a broken home. So it really depends on which part of society you came from. Your pressures would be different as a male.
But like as a millennial specific,
let me help out, Chris. What I think is, one, where millennials sit currently as men, we are the people now creating families. Yeah. Right? We are the age group where we know how to look for property somewhere. We know starting or have a family already. So we supposed to be in a serious space in our lifespan currently as millennials.
We are next up, so to speak.
We are the next patriarchs of our
you see what he
families.
said there, Josh, about supposed to. So if we use the word supposed to, is that in itself a pressure if you're not there?
Yeah. Because I guess there's a lot of...
that's a good question.
Yeah, there's a lot of feeling of where you're supposed to be. I mean, I remember being 18 years old and thinking I was useless because I couldn't afford a BMW, and I felt so pressured because, girls always like guys older than them because they have more stuff. And then you grow up, and the way that the mainstream media portrays, I guess as a guy, you kind of mark your value on women's reaction to you. I mean, all women will show you your value in the way that they treat you. No, they don't hide that, I mean, the way that a woman treats a rich man and a waiter in a restaurant is two completely different interactions. I think somebody had said that the difference between sexual harassment and being funny is, are you handsome or do you have money?
Yeah, or tall.
Yeah, or tall. I mean, I'm sure he must have tall privilege.
Yeah, but you're right, because we've discussed this several times. You can go up to a woman and say, I mean, I know lyrics, right? I know game, but just say, okay, let's just go, hey baby. I find even just say that sounded kind of creepy, right? But you could go, hey babe, or hi, can I buy you a drink? And to someone, if they're not interested, it could be you're harassing me or get away. How do you even think that you're in my category? And to someone who they are looking at, not necessarily by looks, but by stature or what you may know of the person or game, that all of a sudden the person's interested. So you're right in terms of it's a matter of
Social. There's like social and financial pressures, and it's weird.
Correct.
Because they're two different things, you know. Because both of them are equally powerful tools.
right.
Because I mean, some men have zero game, but just have a lot of money, and there's some women that will tell themselves,
That's
all right,
me.
cool,
I have
meal
zero
ticket.
game.
You know, you'll say meal
So that means
ticket,
you
and
have a
I'll
lot of
just
money
take.
then.
No.
He lied.
So I just somewhere in the wilderness that I'm a what you call an enigma. I have height.
So
height.
Robbie has something that is social privilege. I mean, if you watch Rob, so I mean, I know Rob off it. You watch him walk through a room, everybody is hailing him out. There's social proof that he is, and there's some like biological, chemical reactions going on in a woman's head. No, like when you look at a man, right, what women think is attractive in a man, social proof is one
for
of
sure.
those things, you know, and Robbie has a lot of social proof.
No, Robert has social proof based on the fact that one, he's tall, good looking,
That he handsome
popular.
popular.
Yeah,
Yes,
Robert,
and with
today's
the
a
voice.
nice show, boy. Today's a nice show. Only kudos, boy. Hey.
that him having
Brush up your shoulders.
him having such a wide arsenal of tools to use with is why he had that social equity. But as a millennial, remember, we grew up in the dating space just as internet started bust, right?
Yeah.
So whereas my parents or my father would have to go by my grandmother's house to court my mother, and you know, he didn't have the pressures of having to compete with 100 different men. They didn't have 100 men sliding in my mother DM. You understand what I'm saying? So for a millennial now who is pure competition, personally I think now as
Tinder and all these other things.
as a man, if you pull in like a real solid woman, not Instagram bodies, a solid woman who can hold you down. If you could actually pull one, I give you more forward than my pops pulling my mom's back in the
So
day.
there's a couple things that you all said that I want to have an understanding, right? Because I'm not far removed from millennial, but I would say I'm probably a bit further removed from Gen Z or even
Yeah, I want to remember.
yeah, just about, right? So I could still relate in a big way. But when you start to go on Gen Z and then you start to hear all of these words like, you know, sus and the different ways of the different languages, right? It's a different language.
New language.
It's a new language, right?
That's
It's a
that.
new language that is a whole thing that you have to understand. And in that, I'm saying that because I could still hold on there, is it that because millennials are one, still able, just like myself, to say I can relate, still able to understand what it was like before internet, what it was like before cell phones and things like that, and then so the gap is bridged. Is it that it's more difficult for the adjustment to take place, or is it easier because someone who is, say for example, Gen Z has no connection to that at all? So even bringing it up and saying, you know, in my day, you know, we like to say, in my day, it's like, well,
They don't know what it's like to go outside. Chris, you remember what it was like when you used to have to teach your mother's cell phone and send a gal a text and then delete the message from your mother's phone and say, hey, don't message back, this is not my phone.
I remember when you had to pay, when cell phones came out, you had to pay.
Yeah.
You know, well, it was beepers and pagers and things before that. But just to say that, but if we're talking about pressures, that's pressures more for millennials in society. That's overall. That's millennials, male and female. But I'm talking about as a man. We joked about it, but you talked about what you call it, social
Equity.
social equity,
And social proof.
and social proof. So even in that, is it that there's a perception that if you have that you still have somehow money or there's still some currency that the person can get?
It's like a value exchange, I guess. I mean, women exchange beauty for resources, in essence.
So it's still resourceful. So is that what we're talking about? That there's still always something that. So if a man don't have any of the three,
Yeah, he's screwed.
He could be tall and good looking. He might still get you with that.
Yeah, you can still get you tall and good looking. But I'm not saying.
But there's always
I'm
that
not
saying
saying
horses
I'm
for
not- But then
courses,
again, that's
right?
everybody though.
If you're short, broke, and have no personality, you're in trouble.
Yeah, well, at least be able to be funny.
So, okay, so we're going to get...
But
go
let
ahead.
me just make the point of social pressures, especially for a man as a millennial, right? Remember, comparatively to could only compare myself to my pops, really and truly, right? I wouldn't compare myself to my peers. My pops at 23 had me at 23, right? And where he was then at that age and where I am now is two different, and two different. It's chalk and cheese. So it have these women who growing up in a household see their father been pumping when he was in his 30s, but of course land was a different price back in them days. But I feel that a lot of women are comparing millennial men to their fathers,
Right.
and we can't match that now. You
Right.
understand? There's no way.
Yeah,
My father
yeah.
had a house with 3 children by the time he was 33. He had a nice house too. I cannot even begin to fathom that kind of
Yeah.
vibe right now. You understand? So a lot of the dating issues comes down to the fact that financially I cannot compete with these women's father figures are now. I don't know if anybody else could agree with that. Like, I don't know how the dating pool has been for you all. I know you've been married or have a real serious relationship or something for a long time.
Yeah.
That's
still,
happening.
yeah, still happening.
I got one too. Congratulations.
So you ain't going through them pressures right
Oh,
now?
no.
Yo,
Been out of them pressures
Right.
a while, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we could, we always say that this first part of the show is always about where we take the idea and kind of mull over and try to figure out what direction we're going in. So in there, if I could mix in with the pressures of millennials, we've all spoken about it in some form or fashion, but I don't know, Chris, if you've had it where and I remember Will Smith talking about it and Jim Carrey, where there's rock bottom and then there's this new thing that they're calling cliff top. Right? So you can be at rock bottom where you have nothing, or the perception is that you have nothing, depends on what your outlook is on life. Or you can have everything that you've wanted. And that's not necessarily financial freedom or FU money, as they say, because to you, having everything might be a small house, 3 kids, whatever. And when you reach there, you realize you've not self-actualized. You still want more. That's really what, it was never about the destination, it was about the journey. So within that, we've had this chat. I mean, I've had a chat with most of you, and we speak about the depression that comes that even though the perception is that you have everything in whatever realm that you are, for you, it's not enough. And that might be that one thing that someone is taken for granted, that whether it be a butt, as in a horn, I mean, we still call it butt, right?
Yeah.
Well, that dated you, but...
Okay, so what's it called
But we
now?
talk about millennials, so...
So what's it called now? Gen Z's?
Definitely not but.
Okay, so what?
Let's start there.
You didn't invite me.
Do we, huh?
You didn't invite me.
Yeah. So a butt is okay. So if you get it's horns, okay. So
You can still use... Let's use one and still.
All
I
right,
think
so-
that's
Say,
that
yeah,
be
well,
across the...
so you were
across the board.
cheated on, or you
Yeah.
were I don't know. Okay, so but
Sneaky link. There is if
Yeah,
to use
yeah.
something more modern,
Yeah,
Yeah, but-
the worst licks a man could get.
a sneaky link.
a sneaky link.
No, when
I
a
don't know. I might
horn,
laugh at the term more than anything else. But the pressure that you had have felt as now internalizing, not just the pain, but is the pain then coming from a place of where you thought you were, that a woman now you've placed all your value in that woman, or placed all your value in what society thinks. And now, as even you mentioned, like with regards to millennials now coming into this environment where everything's on social media now, so it happened today, is WhatsApp, is all kind of things being communicated, say, hey, you hear that man get a sneaky link or what? I hope it's sneaky link and you don't just cheating me up.
don't take him on
It is-
reason.
it is.
We stay with horn.
We stay with one,
We
right?
stay with horn.
And so I just try to really get an understanding of the several different types of pressures
Gotcha.
that millennials or men go through, but specifically millennials now having to bridge that gap between the older generation and now going through this Gen Z. Because now having children, you're going to now have Gen Alphas.
Yeah.
What would you have said would have been the worst one? The pressure to financially take care of those around you, or the pressure to sort of like fit in and to have a social presence?
Financial. Social presence wasn't that hard for me. Yeah, financial pressures are a lot more.
To keep up with the Joneses. So, like, you ever felt like you had
And
to...
that hasn't dated you?
Well,
had to
Keep up with the Joneses?
well, to keep up with the Joneses,
That's still a thing?
it is.
Not
if,
really,
if you're in the social light,
You were here, Robert. I was trying to keep you, you know,
if you're in
involved
the, if you're in
it.
the social light, I would say
Yeah.
it is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think so?
I think even outside the social life, like we saying social meaning the popular people who in the entertainment industry.
Oh, I'm actually saying social more on social media.
Or social, you talk
Social, yeah, correct. Because, for instance, it have a lot of people that are social media friendly, and then a lot of people that are social, as in gathering friendly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess
Well-
perception versus reality.
Yes.
So before we have to go to a break, but before we go to the break, just real quickly, both of you are from all accounts and you know in our off-air conversations are rags to riches story. There may be a perception that you were handed everything, and that's one of the fundamentals. But that's one of the fundamentals that many people do. They look at you guys with your. Well, I have a G-Shock, but you
I
guys
even
with
have a watch.
your nice watches. I think, but I mean, if you look at some of the real successful people, they don't wear. There's always a plain T-shirt and so on. But
That's the next level.
to
Jersey.
To not have to wear
when
watch.
you take the watch off, yeah, where there's a perception that someone initially looks at you and say, "Oh, you went to St. Mary's, you know who your dad is, you know you're wearing a polo shirt, all of these different things, and not a polo shirt, actually a polo as in a Ralph Lauren, and thinking to themselves, oh well, you have it made, and not realizing that you too, one would have come from a place or could have come from a place that wasn't already ready made for you, or a silver spoon in your mouth, as they say, and vice versa, like yourself, and you've come through, and you've I wouldn't say you've actualized, but you've
The only way.
On the way, yeah. Uphill.
You can see, you can see there are moments where you feel like you're walking uphill in sand with both your hands tied behind your back and you're trying to because you don't know. You know, you swing for the fences, you miss, but you get a little closer. And you had to keep telling yourself, well, swing, and eventually we're going to hit it. And I mean, at some point you hit it and you tell yourself, all right, cool, that's one. And when you get that one, I guess there's like a moment where you ask yourself, like, is that enough? You know, you're only as good as the last one, kind of thing. And you see, like, how driven you are. Is it intrinsic? Are you one of those people who you get... So, like, these stories of these serial businessmen that work until they're dead, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or certain men
But is that valuable?
Well, you see, it depends, because if you get substance from what you do, so if you just work for money, well then no. But if you have fun, if you enjoy what you do, there's a lot of people who, when they retire, they end up dying soon after, because there's no stimulation.
I have seen situations like that, or get dementia. Like
Yeah.
as they retire,
Yeah.
they retire, dementia immediately sets in.
But is it because you've put everything? Sorry to cut you, Chris, but is it that you put everything at that point? Your identity is placed in that, so that when that's no longer. So if that gets removed from you, is it that you could?
Your identity is gone.
Your identity is gone.
Well, what you're saying, is it valuable? It depends on what is valuable to you. You know, my work is valuable to me.
Right.
So I put my time into my work.
Yeah, but when is enough enough? And when does it not become like a strange version of body dysmorphia to women, for example, who like, I'm fat, but when really they're not. So for a man say, I'm successful, but in your mind's eye, you're like, I ain't really make it yet, no. When does it become damaging?
I want to bridge the gap between the two earlier, because I think what you're trying to say is, Chris, from what he is saying, sort of attaches a value, that the value of his experience of being alive is, he's an artist, is the creation of what, for people who don't know, Chris does some of the nicest events you'll see in Trinidad. I ain't gonna bust his files or who is his client, but there are a lot of very lovely events that you go to in Trinidad, and Chris is the man behind the scenes orchestrating everything. Maybe what he is saying is that perhaps some people, you just have a job to make money. So if the ends is money, at what point is enough? And Chris says, if the end is enjoyment, then there is no enough.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's always, and I'm glad you put it in that way, and like it came up, and because a lot of times you always hear, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I go, I'll do the gesture, but let's deal with the roll eyes for now. I mean, I don't know if that's trendy still, but I prefer to hear it like that. The way that was put. But we need to take a short break.
As I'm going to say, you know what I love? I love going to the break.
So let's go to the break.
This is Manhood, and we're talking about millennial men. So I think we were talking about, he was saying, if it's a guy who has a job and he's working for money, and the reason that he has this job is money, at what point is enough? And Chris was also coming at it from a different perspective, which is he gets the experience of being alive from what he does. And so there would never be enough. I think Chris could work up until the day he dies, and he would want more time to work because he enjoys it that much. And I mean, I've seen him doing events for people before, and the man he's like Picasso. He sacrificed his mind to what he does, and it's why he's one of the best in the country at it. To move on from pressures, I guess we could probably talk about the roles of men in society. Like, what is a man? I mean,
but in Chris's case,
case,
just to touch on that before, Chris's case, it is you're blessed and unique that not everyone. If you look at the majority of men are going to work because they have to. You have to put food on the table. Family, all these same pressures that we're talking about. The pressure there is that you have to provide, and if you're not providing, then many things can happen. How your whether you have a significant other, because no woman ain't want to go no broke.
Sure.
Right? The other side of it is, if you're with someone, they can potentially leave you if you're not providing. A woman can go into toxic masculinity if she feels that, okay, well, I now have to be the breadwinner, or I now have to find a way to provide for these children, or herself. She's going to want nice things. And then the man himself, people forget that the man too wants nice things, It's just that if you're working for $5,000 and life is, especially now, where everything, I mean, what could you get for $5,000?
Life is $4,500.
Life is, you and you could be working as hard as you can trying to earn an honest dollar, and you're just not making ends meet. We talk about middle class now, but there's a new term that they call the working poor, where you're really just living from paycheck to paycheck. You're as good as your last paycheck. So you may have you might have a home, you might have a car, your children might be going to school, but you don't even have that one paycheck goes without that. That's it. You're into a category of losing everything. So it's called the working poor.
You're literally one little hiccup away from having to sell barbecue tickets.
Wow.
And ask your friends to have
So you went to buy them tickets.
Yeah.
I think it might already be in the hiccup,
Yeah, no.
And the thing is, like, would those friends still be around?
Yeah.
With that, if you're not part of, because people tend to want something, and I remember people saying, be careful as to who you call friends and who you call colleagues or acquaintances. You really may have maybe 5 core friends, if you're lucky, in your particular circle. So I just wanted to touch on that with regards to those types of pressures before we moved on to what Niall was going to ask you, which is what you consider a man.
To finish on what you're now saying, nobody wants to do a favor for somebody who needs a favor,
Whew. Say that again. Say that again.
Say that again.
But it's a fact. I remember there was a time where I know you alluded to both of us having kind of rough stories. I mean, I'm a kind of a... you either love me or hate me. I mean, I have been a kind of a public figure in this country for a long time. And, I mean, my rise and fall multiple times has been very visible on social media and other things. I mean, it's hard to say I know me or my last name. The moments when you're down, like, nobody check for you. People, I remember the first time in my life that I started to do real good was I had a very, for obvious reasons, I'm going to call many names of these businesses, but I had a business where people used to come and eat. And people, I couldn't deal with the popularity all of a sudden because I grew up in a way where I wasn't really popular. Nobody took me on, per se. And then all of a sudden on a Friday night is girls I couldn't believe had my number asking to get into my place to lime, and men whose fathers are billionaires and trying to, come by your place and buy out the champagne and come and play buddy with you. And in those moments where you flush with favors, and then when that falls apart, you actually need a favor. There's nobody, because you have nothing to give me. And there's a lot of social exchange with that. Like, men get respect based on what is your perceived value. Like, can you give me money? Can you give me social capital? What can you do for me?
Do you think that applies more now as for millennials, or our parents our fathers was going through that same issue?
I think it's probably just more public now. So, like, years ago, I remember watching this podcast on heartbreak because I'd gone through a real terrible breakup at the end of last year. And in moments like that, when you're by yourself, you just watch podcasts, right? so I was watching.
Facts.
I was watching this podcast on heartbreak, and this man, he was talking from the perspective of people don't value you unless they intrinsically get their value from you. Like, nobody's going to meet you and be like, oh, well, I like you, I'll do nice things for you. Well, as a man, right?
So everything transactional.
Yeah, man's relationships are transactional. You look at it, women are loved and children are loved for who they are. I think it's Chris Rock said that.
Unconditionally.
Unconditionally.
Love,
because you have a woman, she give you children, you have your children, you love them.
No, but that's a transaction.
I guess, but when you look at it from the perspective...
having children?
Meaning for a man?
No, what he gets.
I'm protecting this woman and taking care of her because she has my children and taking care of my household.
I just want to know if to do the box to say the views and the expressions.
My opinions.
Are your opinions. And I'm just trying to say, we don't know women just come in and try to tear up this studio here now.
No.
So let's clarify. Let's kind of, before we go further.
No, I will say, just to defend all of us from being attacked in the street, right?
Right.
So, what we're trying to say is there's a lot of conversations that men have with each other that we don't have in front of women. So, like,
right.
Rob, you know my girlfriend now, so you know that is basically...
First class. She's first class. But it comes to that you get through. And get through will obviously mean that you were at a position at one point where you thought you were gone through.
Yeah, so we attach, what I'm going to say is, women, I mean, we have these conversations with each other where we are afraid to have these conversations with you all. I mean, me and this woman, she's lovely, but we had this dread debate, like a 2-hour debate, and it vacillated between educational, her wanting to strangle me with a kitchen towel, and then back to, all right, okay, yeah, we agree to disagree. But it's hard for men to say how they feel. I was at this thing, we have this thing called Cookbook Club. Like, once a month we get together and pick a cookbook and cook from it and have a big potluck. It's a group of us on WhatsApp. And we were there, and one of the host, her husband, was saying that he feels like men are marginalized and we're being feminized and it feels pressurized. And the segue was towards, like, guys like David Goggins and Andrew Tate and people, the Red Pill movement, and guys who are now starting to get a lot of traction with young men.
And you had this conversation with your partner?
I did. And I was explaining...
The only person as I do.
Yeah.
I understand the kitchen towel now.
Right, yes. I was afraid for my life a little bit. But she's extraordinarily intelligent and she understood. Thank God. If you're watching this, honey, don't kill me. Right. So there's this part of being a man that you're afraid to say, how you feel. Like, men, we do feel under pressure. And we do feel like what is traditional positive masculinity, what we believe in ourselves, our intrinsic value to those around us, is not really seen as a positive thing. And I mean, you have things like feminism. We're not saying that feminism is a bad thing, but there are a lot of pushes in society now that kind of feel like you're being attacked as a man. You don't find? You feel like what is natural masculinity feels is like you're trying to tell me it's wrong. The men that they put on pedestals don't really feel manly. It's like, let's say all of us were in this room right now and I got a man running the room. Who you gonna hide behind? Is the most masculine one of us. The one that looks like, all right, cool, I'm not gonna panic. Or let's say you're in a restaurant. So there was this shooting in America. One of these wild public shootings, right? And where the shooting happened, there was an entire row of people that were shot at. And all the women who were in a relationship survived. All their husbands were dead. Because what does a man do? What you would do?
Step in front.
You would jump in front of your girl, right?
Of course.
And I was explaining that to said young lady with the kitchen towel. I said, if we walking on the road and somebody, like let's say a group of men have approached us and I know that you are in danger, even if it's going to kill me, I know that I have to find a way to stop them long enough for you to run away and get away.
Yeah, but that's a bad example because this said individual, it's better for you to do the ducking.
In other words, she'd be like, yeah, what?
I got
Let me handle this
Baby,
scene,
you
you
run
know?
away, I got this.
You got this.
But from the perspective of masculinity, I mean, men want
Is it
to
the
feel...
cancel culture? Is it that we,
Yeah.
like a lot of men, even in this cancel culture, the moment that you seemingly what is normal and you say certain things that you feel, the moment you say it, you're immediately going to be ostracized.
Yeah, you can't
for
have an opinion. You can't say like this hurts me or I don't agree with this. You can't say it.
Yeah.
Because
all of a sudden it's like,
you're a misogynist. The patriarchy.
We fought for so long and you're coming and saying this now, and then you find the men also, and we've spoken about this on a couple of shows, the men also sometimes retreat because they want to get some later.
Exactly. There's
So
like this
them
white
hey,
knight syndrome.
you on your own there, pal. Yeah.
I think happy wife, happy life is a mistake. I believe that a
Very
lot of
toxic.
men repeats.
It's very
Like
toxic.
that is not. I have never seen that work in relationships.
Yeah, agreed.
Because you're gonna put yourself in misery. I mean, it like the whole idea of equality, and this go around and get some fire, but
Okay, hold on. Let's
disclaimer.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
Let's get
These gentlemen do not endorse anything I'm about to say. But the whole idea of equality is stupid. From the perspective of equity is better. I mean, there's some things that men are better at, some things that women are better at. I can't make a child. You know what I mean? Woman, I remember she had asked me, she said, so I had to keep referring to this debate because a thorough debate, right? She asked me, it's like, so do you think I'm less than? I said, no, I think you're more than me, actually. Because positive masculinity is a self-sacrificial experience. I will go out there and work hard and turn my blood to water, if necessary, for my family to live good. I mean, they're like, the meme, my hands look like this, so hers can look like this. Mm-hmm. That's real.
But women would do that too, though.
Well, that's what I was not about to say. It's a value exchange again. So once you get a woman that's on par with you, you would get that value exchange where...
Correct.
Equally
But how do you
Yes.
feel? How do you feel, though? Like, in the sense that, and hear this question, right? Is it not that you want to bear that burden for your family?
Yes, I do. But when you actually get somebody that matches that energy, I think that is what fosters a good relationship.
So
And removes the pressure that we're talking about.
So in this
agree with
pressure, I just want to,
Remove
because
pressure.
I like a lot of what is being said here today. And when I say like, I'm not happy about it. I like meaning it's really, the cogs are turning. Like, for example, I've never seen that meme, but it immediately I saw a visual, as creatives, yeah, I could. Yeah.
You are creative,
okay,
Robert,
thanks.
yes.
That
creative millennial Robert Dumas.
Nile knows where I'm coming
Yeah,
from, right?
yeah,
So the hands and
that's another show.
the visual of that. But what I'm trying to get back is, it's the opinions right now and the what with 3 millennials, what you're feeling and your thoughts and what you're going through, but but that's not specific to a lot of what we're talking about here today. Is not specific to just millennials. It's men and
Men in general, yeah.
men in general. So I just want to kind of bring it back to what us in these same topics, like the pressures and the feelings, even in relationships. What is a millennial man going through differently to what someone, say, in my generation or Gen Z, or is happening in relationship? Like, what are some of the, and you spoke about it with the pressures of social media.
Yeah,
say, for example, how that's impacting you now. What, Chris, like, would you say is a millennial man?
But I think that might be something that you might have to answer first, since you're
Right.
outside watching in on us, and you probably seen the pressures that we are going through. Based on your generation,
Yeah.
you might be able to speak to that a little more than us.
Well, how did social media, how did the change in the pool affect you? I guess is
No,
a
because
question I'll
let's go
ask.
with age group. If that's the case, when social media busts, right? I would have been now coming out. No, when social media busts, when any dating, when I started dating, that's when social media was now pumping, right?
Yeah.
Robert would have already met his girlfriend or met his fiance or wife at that time, and already now looking to children. So he's already more established.
I don't know. I know
social
that's where
media.
you're
But
going, but I
that's-
don't know if I agree because
You see, but,
Well, you see,
sorry.
there's
Go,
Yeah, see what it's, but I don't know if you want to compare like with social media, because it has the persons that would have been I don't know if you want to call it techno savvy or whatever,
savvy, right, yeah.
tech savvy, that fall in line with us, with our age group, with social media. So it might have been some people who would have been enthusiastic as you to start using social media. You understand what I mean?
But
So
social media
there's a
was
certain-
bang when
yeah,
it
but
comes
what's
to
it? So in millennial and my age group, sounding like wow, like how the parents used to sound and the grandparents there.
Robbie, you're not that old.
It just where I like, but so we're talking about by say in my case by 6 years. So it's not much. So that everyone, maybe you guys would have known what it would have been like before social media. So you might not be dating, but you can experience or still understand what your parents and understand these things. So yes, I would have started to date before the advent of social media, but it doesn't take away that in my generation or even persons, like parents and things like that, people are still dating, there's still breakups, there people are still finding new partners. So they have to now work in this environment. Now, if it's a Gen Z, for example, they're just in the social media, they're just in the Tinders, and that's their world.
I don't think they've ever, you don't pick up people in person anymore.
That's it.
For sure, yeah.
So what I would say is I would have loved going out. You talk about clubs and parties. You go to a party and it's a salsa, it's a Latin dance, it's a this, and these are different ways that you would. I didn't have lyrics, but I could have Latin dance. I could have done, So therefore, there were different ways to romance a woman. But now you don't see, El Rico Suave. That's how it. But
What's suave between Robert and Dumas?
yeah, you go into a party now. Is a I don't know who pelting away, who get drunk, who this like how
We
you
have way more options as a millennial man, but less money. So where it would have been different before now, where you didn't have many options. You had the girl on your street, the girl on your church, the girl in your sports thing,
And
right?
that's
And you had more money in them days.
I
You could
guess,
choose a woman and build a house together tomorrow. Meanwhile, I have 1,000 women to choose from.
No, the advent of the selfie as well was licks. I mean, these are toxic people. Like that man and woman, toxic, no boy. Like they have those people that they break up with somebody, all of a sudden they're half naked on Instagram. Like you're posting, if it's a man, you're posting an abs picture, you see what girls like it. What girls message in your DMs and tell you something. The flexing now.
Yeah, but that's a rebound. But I don't want us to go. I want us to talk more about that. We're taking a short break, but I want us to come back and talk about that because your reaction after a breakup and those are all pressures
To seek validation.
To seek validation. So we're talking about millennial men, and we are going to get back on topic in this next segment.
Manhood podcast, and we are talking about millennial men. Right back to you, Mr. Alexander.
All right, so we were talking about millennial men and the unique pressures. I think that our two hosts were debating if men's issues and millennial men's issues are one in the same. Because I actually agree with what he's saying. The only difference between men's issues per se and millennial men's issues is our generation was the first one that is, I don't want to use the word assaulted, but was assaulted by social media. Your life is not really your life. I mean, there's these guys on this podcast I was watching, they say, you break up with a girl and she moves away and that's it, she's gone. What do you...
never seen her again, you don't know nothing about her.
But now you have her Instagram. You watching her photos. I mean, like, two people break up. This one posting ass pictures. This one posting abs pictures. You're in the gym. You're trying to show off for everybody. There's the flex factor. The difference between men's issues, like holistically, and millennial men's issues is probably the exposure that you have. You're not able to hide.
The access.
Yes.
Access and desensitization.
You don't have... We're all in front of a camera now. Like, before, movie stars and TV, people on TV, like my good friend Robert Suave Dumas. Were the people that had, like, the bright lights on you. But I mean, now, especially with cancel culture, you make one slip and you could lose your head. I mean, socially. No, we're not saying...
Do you think
physically.
that cancel culture kind of degraded the conversations between men? In other words,
for sure.
We now very, very carefully, even now, even in this moment here,
You're free to be men.
Yeah, remember what I used to call locker room talk? Like, I don't understand where we became such a powder puff, like society. You know what I mean? It's like, if somebody says something that offended you, you have, how dare you? You have not, like, come on.
But it come down to money.
Pick
So that's
on.
why we became powder puffs.
I guess, yeah.
It came down to my money can get messed up. So I'll be a good boy and
Hold my corner.
Now keep in mind that this is still a man's world, right? I put my disclaimer to the world, right? This is a man's world, right? And the only reason I say that is, one, men cannot dictate the rules simply because men are the more violent of the two species.
I think I
Violent meaning. I want violent meaning that we're the ones fighting wars, really and truly. Like, as in, if it is something was to happen and a shootout happen and we talk about, is the men more men?
I want to answer this if you don't mind.
With men by nature, you can be more aggressive because
Aggressive is
the ego aspect of it, in terms of to dominate, to hunt, to
Right.
to be the alpha. No woman is gonna look in an environment and go, you always hear, he's so kind and sweet, and the reality is, you want to be in many ways the alpha. I'm just about historically.
I want to add a dimension to this. I don't know if I agree with that, honestly.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you have the rise now of guys like Andrew Tate and David Goggins, and doesn't matter how you feel about them, or like Hormozy, or any of those other guys that are tracking hundreds of millions of views on social media. Who is their audience? Young men. What do they all have in common? They feel marginalized. They feel disrespected. They feel like they're not important. Guys like like Waller, right? He's talking about, guys that work with their hands, the average workman that builds the world, paves roads, hangs steel buildings, electricians, guys cleaning your sewers. You take for granted, you flush your toilet and don't stay in your house. You know what I mean? And yeah, men have that physical capacity, but I think that it's gone a little too far in the other way, that like, if it hurts... So, okay, the average man has a conversation. If I meet another man, there's always the threat of violence. The first time I meet another man, it's like we are going to size each other up, and this is either going to be a cool conversation or somebody could get hurt. And that's it. Like, I've never been in a conversation with another man and not been willing to hurt him, should that become necessary. And I don't think any other, unless you, because it's like strength through power. It's like, the difference between being a gentle person and being a coward is the capacity for violence. So if I could damage you, but I don't, I am gentle, But if I can't do you anything, so I don't do anything, I'm just incapable. So there's
Right, so you make my point and we're agreeing.
no, but there's a capacity that, so you see men, right? But here's the thing. The weapons that women have and the weapons that men have are two different weapons, because that has to come back to me talking about equity versus equality. The weapons are different. Like, yeah, men biologically have physical weapons, but a woman could tell you something and cut you
And tear you apart,
and
right?
cut you. You know what I mean? She make you feel less than from your capacity to protect and provide. It mash you up.
But in reality, words is not real. If we're talking about the actuality of the human experience, it's really about actual war and bloodshed. That's what's actually that's real power.
I mean-
Everything else is just a mirage. Let's be real.
But words is what causes wars
True.
and bloodshed.
True. That's what triggered. So I guess that's power when you really look at it.
But then that's also ego, because it's two persons and nobody wanting to back down. You know, like there's where I need to be right, or I need to prove to my peers of a certain power, or you're leading a country, and everything is being fueled by something, but it's fueling an ego, and nobody wanting to back down is why, you know, for the most part, people go to war. Because if for all intents and purposes, if you really sit down and have a full-on discussion and with the people, communities, these things can be resolved.
Yeah,
But
most problems.
It's a matter of I'm powerful, I am mighty, or I want this, because most of the time it's because of lack. You know, sometimes, you know, you hear, if you read books and you understand what happened with Hitler, etc., he was able to convince a whole population based on lack. They needed something.
Capitalize on
And
insecurities.
capitalize on insecurity.
Interesting. So then what we're really talking about is, as you say, that there are a lot of men that feel marginalized, right? Based on what my understanding is, that is really, because I would still dub this as a man's will, is really men who is men allow feminism to thrive and exist in Western world, because in the Eastern worlds they don't.
You see, that's a dangerous.
So before you go into that,
Why is it
Josh,
dangerous, though?
what I want you all to you see how you said marginalize, and that so many persons either through listening to these podcasts are showing that they feel that particular way, but also those who might be ghost listening and not discussing it because they're afraid to admit that they listen to Goggins or Andrew Tate. I'm in other words, is it then that men in general, you would say in terms of millennials, are feeling unseen, unheard, and not able to become what they are or feel innately, and that is being suppressed just to be, for lack of a better word, peace, and as you mentioned, happy wife, happy life.
I think there's this I can't get these statistics right, but I think it's like 2/3 of the average man hasn't had sex in the last year.
That is true.
Yeah.
And like,
That's accurate.
yeah, and
That's crazy numbers.
Which
though,
I
when you
think
think
is very
about it.
crazy.
and,
Well, no,
and then,
as you said that, and there's a reason.
no,
for
but
that,
there's a worse one.
80, where they say 80% of women like 20%.
No, it's less. It's 95 to 5. 5% of men in the world have access to 95% of the women. I mean, well, there's a kind of a biological hardwire that most women will leave their partner and monkey branch higher. And it's a terrible set of circumstances.
Most women, boy, that's scary though. They say
No,
most.
I don't
think
want
this is-
women
I
to
think this is a
attack me.
moment. I think
Hold
it's a
on.
moment.
Yeah,
Robbie,
yeah.
please
Because-
make
because-
sure
because
that
I- because
don't upload any shots without the disclaimer. I encourage people to go and listen to Sadia Khan and other professionals with degrees who have long format podcasts that are discussing scientific imperial data.
This is know this, right? That even if you may be, as you put it, attacked, this is a space of courage. This is a man space, right? This is a men are having discussions. We're not looking for the input of what another person who's not, whether male or female, who may not agree or disagree. It's men having a discussion.
Yeah.
And if this is how you feel, I guarantee you that what you're saying and what you're expressing, you're not alone.
That's true.
Well, let me ask some questions, right? To the three of you. What do you think is the thing that, if you were to pick a top 3 things that you think women are attracted to, what are they?
Well, we know money, height,
my tall brother just throwing that in there.
In fact, let me rephrase
Shout
that.
out the short
Height,
kings.
money, and I guess and comedy.
So height is a thing.
And comedy.
No, I mean,
Can you make them laugh?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't-
physicality is a thing. What do you think?
Charisma, money, definitely.
And there's a reason I asking you all this, now.
Good.
When we finish.
Good.
What's your third one?
The third one, very optional. It could be between. I don't know if I'll class good looks and charisma as the same thing. No,
I mean, aesthetics can be certainly,
yeah.
but I think less women actually don't care about aesthetics once they see money start to get involved.
There's a
So I guess if
there's
you have money and
some
charisma,
So,
you're good.
but
yeah.
are we bringing it on so?
No, I want your 3 before I tell you why I'm asking this question.
I mean, I know money does attract, and you know, there's always that saying about men to not chase women, but to chase money, because then the women will come. But I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to say that women are that.
Rob, you're
No, but hold on.
waffling.
Yeah, give me your other 2.
Give
me your top
All
three.
right.
I'll tell you why.
I honestly don't know. I don't. Looks.
So, okay, so if you were to
Look,
guess,
I would say okay. So
what
like
are the
for
3
me,
things that you prioritize
So-
to attract a mate?
So I am sapiosexual. So intelligence certainly attracts me.
Okay, I was trying to figure
Right.
what the hell,
What-
what in the
what-
LGBT is
what
this
attract
now?
them?
So I would also, so in that sense, I would say that what attracts women would
Bleep
be
that out, please.
looks,
Okay.
so aesthetics,
Right.
your morals. So, for example, maybe your personal, like, all right. So all right,
Morals,
let me not waffle.
Please.
So looks, can you make them laugh?
Yes, which is charisma.
And your intelligence.
Stop it, Rob.
Yeah, that,
Stop
so
it,
so
Rob.
just
Just the fact that you don't save money.
so
right now,
I
again,
gotta
so
be brutal,
bad.
right? So like
Don't listen, man.
I basically married to
Don't
me and
listen,
care. So I guess I can probably be playing. I basically married to me and care,
Right.
right?
Check it.
But the 3, well, I got here. I pack up. So if anybody look at this, they can
Yeah.
no, unavailable. But the 3 things that women look for scientifically, in order of importance, is signaling resources.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be money now, but the potentiality
of money.
and the reasonable assumption of its acquisition. Second thing is looks, and the third thing, well, second and third are tied realistically in terms of the data, is looks and social cues. So, like, are you respected by your peer group? How do other people deal with
Right.
you? What's your social strength? Like, are you somebody who walks into licensing office and skips the line, kind of thing? Like, do you walk into lines and everybody shake your hand? Like, are you well
So that's
respected?
resources.
Well, yeah. So social resources. Are you respected by your peers? But the reason why I asked all of you all this thing is, it comes back to what we were saying, that 95.5. Because women and men, and this is why equality doesn't make sense. From my perspective, and everybody's entitled to their perspective, people could think that equality is the best thing ever. I won't attack you for having your opinion. I just have to agree with it, right? So we're all entitled to a better society. Anyway, the reason why equality doesn't make sense. and it's
Before
more
you go
equity-
into that, Josh, what do you understand by equality?
Equality from the perspective of I want to phrase it right, but the assumptions of responsibilities and roles are equal, but that doesn't make sense, right? Because women.
But do you think that that's what women are asking for? Because I
It's
believe
what it was- it's-
when women say equality, I think what they're really asking for is fairness. And fairness doesn't mean that they don't want a man who is successful, or they want to work and things like that. What they want is fairness of job opportunities, pay,
Voice.
voice, and general human rights. So in that equality, it's not necessarily like I have to be on the equal, like in war. I want to be treated equal. I don't think it's that.
So what you're asking for is equity, and I'll tell you why, right? So in the hiring process, so let's say that you run a business, right? I mean, the four of us here have run businesses before. So you run a business. When you're hiring, let's say you have an office, this is a long-term business, 5 years in the tank, reoccurring business. If you have a choice between hiring a man who is 31 and a woman who is also 31, all things considered equal. They both have the same degree, they're both nice, they're both pretty much the same on paper. What is the one concern you would have as an employer?
Well, as Niall mentioned from the start, a millennial, especially at this stage, is now going to be looking to have a family. And so as a result, the man is not going to have a child. So it's the woman that's going to have to be away for 3 months.
And this is why you need equity. Because you need a society where, so you know that the woman can't work. It is unfair to assume. Because I don't know any woman that's trying to push out a child and the same day you come out of the hospital, you're going back to work. It doesn't make sense, right? So there's
But there are women who want to, so maybe they need to ensure that paternity leave.
Exactly. So you could do your want, right? So let's just say this. We here on the Manhood podcast are not trying to give anybody instructions on how to live their life. We're just having a creative discussion.
Exactly.
Our opinions.
Okay.
So I want to, we're coming to a close.
Yeah.
And a lot, we always say it here, guys, on Manhood, that we always just scratch the surface. The audience knows that we scratch the surface. We can never do a full deep dive in every area. And that's why we continue to have the show every week. And the expressions here, though may not always be viewed as the ones held by Manhood, it's men in general. There are views, nevertheless, of many thousands and thousands of people who would be listening and watching this particular podcast and feeling marginalized.
Yeah.
And so, let's go around the room in our closing thoughts, what we took away from the show. With the focus really being on the three of you, I'm just gonna say adios when we're done, because I'm not a millennial and I really want.
You look like one though. Congratulations.
There's always this thing, start as your plan to finish, and I'm glad we started the show with the kudos and we could end.
We joked in one of the breaks we went to pee and we were joking and we were actually doing this podcast just to do a Robert Dumas dub plate. You could cut this up and use this for intros.
Yeah, get you. Well, so let me start just to make it easy, right? My takeaways generally is, I do think, even though the word equality is not what I would use balance. I think that both men and women are very much balanced with each other.
I like that.
And
I agree with that.
when we apply it to millennial men, I think that social media tips the balance on our side now. In other words, it's difficult to find the properly or equally yoked woman for us and our personality, because now everything's so broad and it's so many different ranges. So I'm thinking that for those millennial men at home, I understand the pressures that you're under based on societal standards. I think that it will pass eventually, and it will be a whole new generation going through different societal standards, so you don't really have to dig too deep into it. But understanding yourself is all that it really takes, and you should be fine after that.
I like that. I want to touch back on some of the stuff that I was talking about just to give it some clarity before. But, my takeaways from today is men's issues have remained men's issues. The difference between the generations now and generations past is the advent of social media, the amount of exposure that you have to become comfortable with living your life in. I would like to say that our society tends to wildly go in directions, like we overcorrect things. And as he was saying, balance is really, this podcast, it wasn't, I know we kind of went off topic when we to discuss the relation of the sexes, but men, for the ladies out there that think that perhaps we may have said a few things here that might have been misogynistic. Men, the most important thing to a man is the perception of woman and the woman or woman in your life. I know that women, you all have really fulfilling relationships with women as well, but men, our most fulfilling relationships are with our partners, our children, and our mothers. These are our most fulfilling relationships that are the deepest rooted emotional bonds that we can have. So the opinions of women, the way that women deal with us is very important to us. And we are, the rise of people like Andrew Tate and David Goggins, there's a struggle within, I guess, the relation of the sexes, because men sort of feel like, yes, the last, I guess, couple hundred years has been crap as far as it pertains to the relation of the sexes to each other, and there has been, misogyny in the workplace and the way that women are paid and the way that that voting has been. I mean, some countries women couldn't vote, which is crazy, But it is a balance, and the sexes need to work together. Men and women, you're made to balance each other. You're not made to compete with each other. Men and women do not compete with your partners. They have some song where it's like your man is your biggest hater, your girl is your biggest hater. I can't grab the song right now in my head.
Pretty toxic.
Something like that. But you need, not you, but we need to strive, I guess, as a society to include and to love each other for what we are, All of the overcorrections and the toxicity of society and social media, where men are worth their wallet and women are worth their is really stupid. And it's not helping us to build anything reasonable. So, I mean, this podcast, if anything, that I take away from it, and I hope other people take away, is that maybe we should try to come together a little bit and understand each other. Men shouldn't be afraid to say how they feel for the fear of being cancelled. And women should not feel oppressed to the point where they're pushing back that hard, So these are my 2 cents, togetherness. And
That was a full dollar.
Yeah, I was about to say that was a full dollar.
$1.
Yeah.
Chris, I'll take my change.
My takeaway would have been, when we talk about access, right? I think access is what is causing majority of the pressure. Right? Just going back to 15 years ago, probably a little more, could be like 20, payphone kind of vibe, access. People didn't have access, as you say. Your female companion would have been in the neighborhood, or you go by some friend or some family, and that's how you met someone, right? So access, I think, is what is controlling the pressures of society and causing the pressures in millennial men, and is more of discussions, as Josh said, discussions with your companion, for you all to have these open discussions and figure out if this person is ready for you, because they mightn't be for you, and that's causing that unnecessary pressure in your life.
You aren't equally yoked.
Yeah, you're not equally yoked.
Gotcha.
So, gents, I will simply say, as we talk more millennial men here, and pressures, to say that pressure does bust pipe. So find your avenue to talk about it, whether it be with a partner, whether it be with a colleague, a friend, whether you're going to take a run, as you mentioned, Goggins, so many other avenues. But find a way, find your way to ensure that, and I think it was Jim Carrey or Robert Williams who said it, be kind to everyone you meet, because you never know what they're going through. And to close, just to say, you simply can't change the beginning, but you can stop and start where you're at to make sure you change your ending. So, millennial men, pressures, all men, we're all in this together. Whichever generation you are, this planet, we got to save it. So this is Manhood. Chris, Josh, Niall, always a pleasure. This is Manhood.
Manhood, brought to you in part by Solomon's Bespoke.